Hello everybody, this is Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and this is the card that I will be creating today for the sneak peek for Flavor of the Month March kit. It's a really exciting time for me because this is my first design team and it's a kit that I absolutely love. I was actually almost from the very beginning. I missed the first couple months when the kit started last year, but I'm super excited to be here now. For the sneak peek, I decided to use Collection 1 of the Scrapping for Less kit, and Collection 1 includes Let's Party by Simple Stories paper, the Lawn Fawn Treat Yourself stamp, Paper House ice cream stickers, Pink and Maine silver glossy dots, and KG sequins. Now I ended up only using the stamp in one of the papers. I used the orange My Favorite Things cardstock. Orange Fizz is what it's called, for my card base, and I'm making a standard A2 5.5 by 4 1/4 card. I wanted to do some blending with some Distress Oxides. I thought the colors matched the paper really well that I chose. I chose Twisted Citron, Spiced Marmalade, and Broken China to fill in the slider portion of it. Now the slider portion of this is actually very simple to make. All you have to do is cut a piece of paper, a base piece of cardstock, by 5.5 by 2 1/4. The bookmark itself is 1 5/16 by 5 inches. The base, you're going to pick a tab for the top base, and for that you're going to kind of cut in a 1/2 inch on each side of it, and then a 1/4 inch from the top down, and that's going to kind of create that tab to flip over and to seal it down. When you do that, all you then do is score by a 1/4 inch along the 3 sides, the 2 long sides, and then the top tab. And then you're going to take some strong score tape or something to make sure that that adheres well to your card front or base, or however you're going to end up using it. And there's a lot of different things that you could do with this. You could easily put acetate on there and make a slider card or all sorts of different things. I'm just using it to make a bookmark this time, so I didn't bother putting acetate in there. But like I said, you could easily do that. The inside square that I cut out was 1 1/16 by 4 1/16, and then you can just use a circle hole punch or really just cut out a square piece or a rectangle piece for the little area where you're going to pull it. So like I said, it is very simple. Now I was picking my stamps that I was going to use and trying to figure out where I was going to place them on the card and whatnot. I have some of the sentiment stamps from the sentiment stamp that was included, the 1-year anniversary sentiment stamp for Scrapping for Less card kit, and you get that if you get the banana split level. I use the Distress Oxides also to color in the ice cream tubs because I figured I already had them out here, and a water brush. And I'm using a new water brush that I really liked. It's Arteza, and of course I was watching Jennifer McGuire and she suggested them, and I will say that these are great to work with. They hold a lot of water, so you're not constantly having to fill them up, and I just thought they really worked great with that. Yeah, that's definitely one of my new favorite things that I have. Using the Distress Oxides to color. I didn't let it dry after I stamped it long enough, and I used Memento black or tuxedo black ink to do the stamping, which normally is great for like alcohol based, but it ended up smearing a little of the black as I was putting on, especially around the top when I was putting in the actual colors for the ice cream. But it ended up kind of looking cool, kind of like it was messy and ice cream drips were going out, so I just went with it. When I created the ice cream, I used a couple different types of Distress Oxide. I used cracked pistachio for some pistachio ice cream. I used picked raspberry for some strawberry ice cream. And then I used vintage photo and walnut stain to make the chocolate. I used black soot for the spoons, you know, to make them kind of look silverish gray on the spoons, and that worked out really well. I end up not using the stamps from the sentiment stamp in that way as far as being on the paper that I stamped before. I do end up using some of them, but just not like that. So as I was deciding on how I wanted to make this card and what I was going to do for the sneak peek, I was excited because this is my first time for a design team, so I was super excited for that. But I've been into making bookmarks lately, and for some reason I just think they're really, really cool. And when I thought about this idea to come up with one I did it on a different card that I made for a bookmark with this slider mechanism, and I just thought it was great. Now, I fussy cut out the ice cream tubs and the spoons. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't really hard. They're pretty simple, so I didn't bother using my scan and cut. And here I'm just trying to figure out exactly what and how I am going to put on all of the little stamped images on the bookmark. I will end up making the bookmark, laminating the bookmark afterwards. So I'm not too concerned about how everything is perfect on there. But you can see I just drew some lines to make sure that I stayed in the line and make sure that you were still going to be able to see the sentiment from the, I dropped my sentiment stamp. But I used a sentiment from the sentiment stamp, the 1-year anniversary sentiment stamp. And it says, because ice cream's always a good idea. So that's what the sentiment says in there. And then I end up using the sentiment stamp with the ink cube that we got in the banana split level from Ink It Up, and I believe it is turquoise. Yes, the color is turquoise, so I end up using that in there. So here you can see I laminated it, and I'm just cutting off the edges of it, making sure that it's all sealed in there well. And I put a hole in with my hole punch just to make sure that that's all good. And then I decided that I wanted to make sure I didn't stamp on top of the sides of what I already blended, and since I already taped it onto my card base, so I just covered that up with some Post-it note tape. And then, like I said, I used that Ink It Up stamp cube or pad that came in. It's a full-size stamp pad that came in our kit. And that's where I used the sentiment stamp. I used the Celebrate, I used the Sunday, and then I included the because ice cream's always a good idea. Now, I do like to make sure when I make the bookmarks that I do have something in the background there, so if they decided to pull the bookmark out and use it while they were still keeping the card, that it still looks pretty and it still looks like a card. I decided I didn't really like the white background, so I just kind of spruced it up with blending some Distress Oxides, and I just ended up using the orange or spiced marmalade and I believe I actually used squeezed lemonade on that. So then I just got some twine from my stash. I put that on there. I popped it up on some fun foam to give it a little more dimension and put it on my card base. Then, since I didn't end up using all of the stamped images, I decided I would stick a sentiment in there, which a lot of times I just leave my cards blank, but that one I decided to stick one in there, and it says treat yourself. And then I put the stamped image in there, and so that is pretty much the card. I thought it turned out really, really cute. I thought that it's just a really cute card, and I was really happy with how it turned out. So I want to thank everyone for joining me, like I said, for my very first video and my very first card that I made for Stamping for Less, and I appreciate it. I hope everyone takes care, and thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.